to In Touch, Think STEM Careers podcast. I am Dr. Ayo Lufade, the host of In Touch, Think STEM Career podcast. This podcast explores the evolving world of science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics in underrepresented communities, including the Blacks, Indigenous, and the people of color. STEAM is vital to our community because our community's health, economy, and future depends on our solid foundation and participation in the innovation taking place in the STEAM field. As the STEAM field continues to evolve, this podcast will attempt to connect with men and women who are champions of and in STEAM education and careers to gain insight into how the Bipoc community can be part of the STEAM innovation and how to inspire and support the creation of innovative solutions for sustainable development that will contribute to positive changes in the Bipoc communities for improving the quality of life. Today, I am privileged and I am honored and delighted to have on this program Dr. Bernard Jackson. Dr. Jackson is the president and chief CEO for Leading Edge Solution, LLC, a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business. Leading Edge Solution is a business management, leadership development, and diversity and inclusion consulting company that specializes in creating innovative solutions to enhance competitive advantage in the global marketplace. Dr. Jackson is a retired Navy captain with over 25 years of operational leadership in a wide range of programs, significant leadership assignment at sea, including Commanding Officer Destroyer Squadron, 14 Commanding Officer USS McFaul, and Executive Officer USS TICONDEROGA, I may blow this name, TICONDEROGA. Significant ashore assignment, including service as Deputy Director of Military Plans and Policy Directorate, Chief of Naval Operations Strategic Studies Group Fellow, Executive Secretary, Navy Human Resources Board of Directors, and Joint Staff Strategic Planner. From 2006 to 2010, Dr. Jackson served as the National President of National Naval Officer Association. During his tenure as the President of NNOA, he provided support to Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard effort to increase diversity at the Service Academy and the Naval ROTC program. He served as an advisor to the Vice Chief of the Naval Operation to restructure the Navy's diversity senior advisory groups to identify the best practices in developing diversity and inclusion initiatives. In 2011, Dr. Jackson established the NNOA Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics program. He leveraged a national network of civilian and military champions to create a STEM program which identified over 95 minority students to participate in STEM-related intern program. From 2011 to 2014, this program awarded over $400,000 in scholarship to minority students interested in STEM-related careers. Dr. Jackson currently serves as the Board of Directors for Savannah State University Foundation. Dr. Jackson also serves as the board concerned citizen network of Alexandria. The CCNA coordinates with local government, state, and community stakeholders to empower a comprehensive community-wide effort to increase students' achievement and reduce high school dropout rates. CCNA is an approved supplemental educational service providers authorized to provide additional academic instruction designed to increase the academic achievement of students from at risk to at promise. I love that. I really, truly love that. Dr. Jackson served as the president of the Alfred Street Baptist Church, HCBU College Festival Ministry from 2017 to 2021. The Alfred Street HBCU College Festival is recognized as one of the largest festivals in the nation. Over the past 5 years, the ASBC HBCU College Festival provides an opportunity for over $25 million in scholarship being offered to high school students across 40 states. In 2016 and 2020, he was awarded the Omega Man of the Year Award. Congratulations for his service as the chair of the Purple Boot Mentoring Program. The Purple Boot Mentoring Program provides support to young minority males by exposing them to leadership training, male mentors in combination with robotics training. In 2017, the Purple Boot Mentoring Program was recognized as the top performing robotic teams in the College of Southern Maryland annual robotic competition. Wow, that's pretty nice. Other awards include Distinguished Service Award, National Naval Officer Association, the Outstanding Service Award, National Society of Black Engineers, 2014, Education Sponsor of the Year, Black Data Processors Association, 2014, Distinguished Alumni of the Year, Savannah State University, 2002, Award Key to the City of Savannah in 1998. Congratulations, sir. Dr. Jackson received his Bachelor's of Science degree in Chemistry and Mathematics. What a combination, from Savannah State University. He was awarded a master's degree in the National Security and Strategic Study from the Naval War College. He received his doctoral degree in Organization Management with a specialization in leadership from Capella University. He has completed Navy Corporate Business course, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill Business School. He is a native of Macon, Georgia, and he currently resides here in Fort Washington, Maryland. Dr. Jackson, this is indeed an impressive accomplishment. I am honored to have you on my program. Welcome. Did I miss anything?
No, that's way. It's really too much. Normally, I kind of condense it down, but I thank you, and it's really been it's really a joy to be with you this morning.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. So, you have had an illustrious career, and you're a leader in our community. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on this show, and I'm truly honored. I will say, compared to you, I'm just novice. I'm just beginning. But you have a wealth of experience. So for that reason, since you have spent much of your career also in the STEM field, let's begin this conversation on this topic. How will you define STEM?
I would say STEM is really, and I like when you use STEAM and you put the A, the arts, because, I would just say that interest in the study of science, and really the underpinning of what makes life work. Because if you don't understand, I would say some of the basic principles, if you can't read, you can't be productive in life. And if you don't understand math and the science, you may not have an understanding on how the principles of science work, and it hinders you in life. My interest in science, I really dates back to when I was in the 4th grade. I've always been an avid reader. My mother was a teacher, which I didn't have a choice. I mean, I knew I was going to be, I always was good in my studies. But in the 4th grade, Miss Haddocks instilled, and I really didn't realize it, but her specialization was biology. And so she led us into, at the time, dissection of frogs, the dissection of the different animals and how nature evolved. And that really sparked my interest in what we call STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And also make sure we, like you said, as you mentioned, the importance of art in all of that structure. I think having an appreciation for STEM is very important, especially for young minority students. And one of the key things that study shows is that if the interest can be introduced early in life, prior to high school, that this has potential, I think those students will be successful. I kind of say, if you can see it, you can achieve it.
Yes.
And so that's where I think it's important that we expose these students, and that's one of the tenets of my mentoring program, is making science fun, STEM fun for people at a young age, and they understand the underpinning on how that supports everything they do in life.
Thank you so much, sir, for that definition and explanation. So why is STEM important especially for our community?
I think STEM is important in our community because as technology advances, and as the world evolves, we've seen the world become closer together, the global economy, and that we're linked. As we continue to advance in health science, physical science, computational science, having a workforce that understands science across the diversity of science, across the engineering field, is important for us as a nation, and really globally. When we look at climate change, we look at very recently, I think you're familiar, where we had the cold fusion that occurred. Like that breakthrough,
yes,
is something phenomenal. And although it may take a couple of centuries to get to the point where we're realizing at the point like they do in what they call star, in using it to propel us through space.
absolutely.
That just shows us that as man has evolved throughout history, their understanding of the science has kind of led that way.
Wow.
When we think back from the Greeks to where we are today, the underpinning of our understanding of how we take care of our bodies, how we take care of our mind, and the development of simple things like the wheel took engineering to do.
Absolutely.
And so as we continue to advance, we also have to ensure that we develop individuals that understand the technology and able to advance the technology.
Thank you so much. That was well said. So what is your thoughts on the state of STEM workforce in the United States? Um, do we have a STEM workforce shortage? I mean, because I've read that, well, I read both side of the argument. Some people say, well, there is no shortage of workforce, while most of us are on the side of, well, there is a shortage. What is your take? What is your perspective?
Well, I would say that we're not producing enough engineers. I mean, there may be, we have a workforce, but do we have the right workforce with the right skill set? And as we see this workforce, and most of the studies that I've seen talk about, especially when we look at the diversity in what's going on in the demographics of our nation, as what I call the browning of America. And, as America continues to be more diverse,
Yes,
both in gender and also racial, we have to look at, if 50% of the workforce is female, and we're not encouraging those females to be in the engineering fields, then we're losing out on a potential capability.
absolutely.
If the new majority, especially in the young population, are people of color, and when I say people of color, that extends to, I'm trying to apply that across a broad range.
Absolutely.
If their propensity is not online with the demands of the technical workforce, that's where we see this shortage, and what some people see as a shortage. So we may have enough bodies, we may have enough people, but do they have the right skill sets? And that's why the importance of training and identifying and making STEM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, something that our young people can see as a potential future is important. I think, when you talk to young people and they say, I want to be a professional basketball player, professional in the NFL, that's because they see it.
Yes.
And although there are chances like 1 in 10,000 high school students will get to the NFL, they all aspire it. And so what we want to do by exposing these young people to the science early is let them know that they have a place if that's something that they choose to do.
Thank you so much. That is well said. It's interesting. You mentioned sports. I just had a conversation with my son. Literally, I did. And my son, he loves sports now. So at the early age, we try to involve both he and his sisters into various activities. So soccer, most especially soccer, uh, tennis, swimming. Uh, now we're even thinking about golfing, but he seems to like football. So I have to. So he came to me and he told me that he would like to pursue a sport career. He wants to go into sports. Uh, so he's fascinated at this point with football. So I sat him down. We had a talk. So I said, son, it's not that I don't really want you to, play sports, but I have to I have to share with you the fun facts. But I like the former running, not Shaman. What's his name? He used to play for the Seahawks. One of the things that I like about Shaman is the fact that he is well educated, but at the same time, he became successful in playing football. But if something should happen to him, if let's say he gets disabled, he has a second career based on his education. So that is the reason why I'm really trying to encourage you. It's not that I don't want you to pursue if sport is something that you want to do, but you have to really will strongly consider that you should pursue a career in the STEM or in the STEAM field. So we had that conversation. He really took it well, to my surprise. So I'm glad that you mentioned the importance of STEAM, especially in our community. Thank you for that. So what industry segment is experiencing the most significant challenge? And are we responding to talent workforce deficit in the STEM and in this important industry sectors? Is there any segment of the STEAM industries at this point that you feel that is experiencing significant challenges? Or that actually you can even expand to that you feel like our group, the underrepresented group, needs to focus on. If you can expand into that, that would be great.
Well, one of the areas where I think we really need to focus is on I'd say the engineering, the core engineering fields, and especially as we move into as we see advances in computational sciences. One of the areas I think recently kind of emphasized by the Biden administration,
yes,
was the CHIP Act, because
yes,
we are right now, when you look at productions of chips, and chips they're ubiquitous. I mean, you may not think about it, but you think about in your automobile, there are hundreds of chips that allow the car to work. When I was growing up, I could maintain my car with the toolkit that I knew how to operate. But today, with the electronics,
right,
added in both our automobiles, you look at our appliances, you look at all of the things that utilizes chips. And I think one of the things that COVID brought out was the supply chain when it came to chips, how that caused that resulted in shortages, also in increased prices, because the demand exceeded the supply.
right.
And so to maintain, I think, America's technological edge, one of the areas that at least from a national and what we see as strategic instrument, is in the productions of the chip industry. And although I'm not an expert in that area, I understand it enough to know that that's one area that we really need to focus on. The other area that I kind of mentioned in the engineering fields, especially when it comes to our graduates of engineering school. My son happened to graduate from the University of Michigan, engineering degree, and
Congratulations.
and he's now an engineer with ExxonMobil.
Oh, nice.
But when you look at the number of people that came from our community getting engineering degrees, that were able to stay here in the country. So that's why some of the Immigration Act has got to play in making it easier for those with degrees to stay and work in America. And we also have to get back to, as I kind of mentioned earlier, introducing at a young age the opportunities in the STEM area, not necessarily from you got to teach kids physics in the 4th grade, but you at least expose them to some of the things that make science fun. Like for me, it was being in the lab.
Right.
realize that I enjoyed the lab, but I was really good at it, and I didn't realize it. And so, like when I first went to college, I was going to be a business major, but my performance when I was in the chemistry and biological labs when I was a freshman, my freshman year, the professor, the director of chemistry said, "Hey, I think you should be a chemistry major."
Wow.
And I did. I really enjoyed the labs better than I did going to economics course. And so I changed my major my first year to chemistry and math, because it's where I had this just joy of working in the laboratory.
Right. Wow. I just wanted to also pull a very important point that your chemistry professor, edifying you, saying the positive things that is needed to ignite and to fire up your passion. That is so significant.
And I think that's the importance of mentoring. And we all, I can't emphasize enough, and that's one of the things I'm passionate about, is the importance of mentoring. And mentors do not need, they don't necessarily have to look just like you.
Yeah.
You need to have a diversity of mentors, so you look at, you can get perspective from a diverse view of a similar problem. And so that professor, Dr. Willie Tucker, he was the head of the chemistry department. Him reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, I think you would do well," led me to where I am today. And so that's one of the things I emphasize. I call it reach one, teach one. We can't save, everybody, but if we can reach one person and help them see some of their future potential, whether it's STEM or whether it's in other areas, I think that's very important.
I think what you said is absolutely correct. And even just identifying at the early stage, I think teachers and professors have the capacity, because they deal with the students all day. Almost every, take for example, student coming to school from 7:30 to about 3 o'clock. That is the most of the time that they spend with the teacher. So that actually gives the teacher, the professor, the ability to identify some of the skills that the student have, and to even mention, those type of, talents that the student have, because a lot of times the students may not even be aware. Dr. Jackson, look, you have become so accomplished because of one professor. And, just saying, to you that, you should consider, pursuing chemistry. That's major. That is really major. Thank you so much for that, sharing that experience. You mentioned chips earlier. President Biden and the Vice President Harris, they signed a Chip and Science Act, which promises to make historic investment in U.S. workers, community, and businesses, keeping the United States the leader in this industry, like nanotechnology, clean energy, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, which is really becoming really big right now. Companies like Micron has even announced $40 billion investment in memory chip manufacturing. And as you've mentioned already, this is really critical in computing and electronics devices, which actually could create up to about 40,000 new jobs in construction and manufacturing. Companies like Qualcomm and global foundries are even announcing new partnership that include a $4.2 billion to manufacture chips and increase semiconductors production in the United States by up to 50% over the next 5 years. So what is the state of readiness of our people in the BIPOC community? The reason why I ask this question is, and I believe you've alluded, to this thought already, but in doing my dissertation, so my focus was teachers' efforts to help students acquire STEM skills. And in doing my research, I came across an article that actually mentioned that the median salary for a student who graduated, or a median salary in the STEM field, was about $91,000. I've went to school. I've spent so much of my time in school, and now I'm a teacher. I have, I would say, 4 degrees, including my doctoral, and they make more money than I do as a teacher. So, and I look at my community and I look at our percentage in the STEM field, and I noticed that, there aren't a lot of us in the STEM field. And that causes me to start wondering, are we leaving money on the table? But I noticed that our community, the most hardest working community in the United States of America, we help build this country. I'm wondering, are we missing something? I mean, I have to ask this question. So what is the state of our readiness in the BIPOC community, especially with the fact that the president's administration have signed, the CHIP and the Science Act, which promise a historic investment in U.S. workers. So what is our state of readiness?
Well, I think I view it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
I say, some people say, what is luck? Luck is preparation, that you prepare so when an opportunity presents itself, you're ready to carry out and accomplish the mission. And I say this because we are at a critical point in our nation when it comes to how we prepare our workforce. You're coming out of COVID, where we've had a couple of years where kids were not necessarily in school. We got to make up for that deficit. And I think, and one of the things that I see, I have, both of my kids happen to be engineers. Son's, he has his mechanical engineering. He happened to go to Thomas Jefferson School of Technology in Alexandria, Virginia, which really got him prepared. And my daughter is with Microsoft. When I see when I see them negotiation for the salary, I see what they versus my mom was a teacher. And my mom taught for over 30 years. When I look at what we pay our teachers that prepare these students, there is a disparity, I would say. And I think we are leaving money on the table. We can't get more of our kids in our community, more young people in our community to view the opportunities that are in those fields. I think you mentioned to your son about, hey, while I want you to play sports, what do you do after the sports? Because you don't play sports. Not everybody's a Tom Brady that plays to. Most people only play 4 to 5 years, and most of them don't make big salaries. And so, what are you gonna do after the sporting career? When you think about, when you look at what Magic Johnson has accomplished after his career, Shaquille O'Neal, you look at Michael Jordan, you look at Dwayne Wade, all of those individuals use their education that they achieved. And even in Shaq's case, he had to go back to school after he left school. Yes. He got his Ph.D. But they were able to use their mind and develop their mind. Education is the key to our success in our community. And education we saw that when we, in the 60s, when we were coming through Jim Crow, education allowed us to break some of those barriers.
Yeah.
That when we look at the first Black president, Barack Obama, you look at where his education set him up to be the president of the United States. And so I think it's important that we invest in our educational community as well, as well as these STEM areas, if we're going to continue to advance and excel in the U.S.
Thank you so much for that. Especially stressing the importance of education. Another celebrity that I'm so impressed is Shaq O'Neal. Yes. Despite his success in NBA, he went back. I'm glad you mentioned that. And yes. Now he's Dr. Shaq O'Neal. Can't take that from him ever, right? Yes. The money may go, but guess what? The knowledge, right, will always be there. So he can always define and redefine himself any time. I want to go back to this chip that is signed by the president's administration. Mm-hmm. It's like, how do I put this in a way that it will sound, I don't know how to put this. It may not come out the way I really truly want to state it. But when the technological evolution began, I noticed that, the other community, apart from the Black community, the underrepresented community, were well positioned, and they succeed and excel in it. And then we basically came along. And now we are in another evolution, industrial evolution. And now that will include things like artificial intelligence. And even now with NASA making every effort to, the space industry is booming right now. I mean, it's just remarkable. So I'm wondering, are we going to be coming to the party late? I don't want us to come to the party late, especially with these opportunities that you have mentioned. The president and the private and the corporation are investing a lot of money because, look, in our computing, now we're talking about quantum computing. That is major.
Yes. Yes.
So that's a lot of opportunity, and I hate to see us come to the party late, and that begs the question: are we going to be coming to the party late? I mean, And how can we avoid, I know you've mentioned the importance of involving our children at an early stage. How can we, avoid coming to the party late?
I think that was part of, and I was fortunate enough to be on part of I supported the Biden administration in their transition team. And the transition team I was working on was looking at this workforce and the things that some of the underpinnings that went into the CHIP Act. And there is a recognition that because we have this growing diversity, that I call it the browning of America. When you look at birth rates, Hispanics and people in the Black community are having, kids at a higher rate. So that drives the birth rate is really the greater influence of the browning of American immigration. Immigration has some influence for birth rates. And so embedded in the CHIPS Act, I think it's in section 10113 of Public Law 117, talks about K through 12 education, STEM education. That's under the purview of the National Science Foundation. To kind of provide support and funding of organizations that emphasize and help with it. I've been fortunate to partnering with Charles County school system, and I know the Charles County superintendent, Dr. Naval, is looking to grow a STEM focus in several of her middle schools. And you're looking at in Charles County that has 8 high schools and probably like 26,000 students. And so there is a recognition in the education, in the leadership at the Department of Education, in the Department of Energy, and in the government, that we have to focus on the K-12 if we're going to develop the workforce with the right skills to be able to produce them. When you talk about quantum and nanotechnology, where's that next evolution coming from? And some of the things we do today, and when I was growing up, we didn't envision that technology, that need for those skill sets, but because we were prepared, that's how it allowed us, some of us to move into those areas. So the importance of the K through 12 and ensuring that our educational, I would call pipeline, produces the right product at the end of the pipeline, it's fungible enough that no matter where technology goes, we have the requisite foundational skill set that will allow us to continue to advance. And so I think that's why I think I can't stress enough the importance of looking at programs that like when my kids were growing up, one of the things that got them involved were programs that supplemented what were going on in the school system, that encouraged kids to get involved in the science and technology fields, as well as some of the arts. A lot of those programs kind of went away, I think, in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I think that if we can get a resurgence of those kind of programs to kind of supplement what the schools are doing, because this is going to take a team effort to ensure that we imbue these young people with the right mindset and the vision of what they can become if they properly prepare themselves.
That was great. That was well said, because I was going to ask you a question: what could the K through 12 school system be doing? And I'm really happy that you touched on that. You talked about that. And you also mentioned the early exposure, because that is another question that I want to ask you. Will early exposure to STEM program, academic opportunities and employment, right, increase underrepresented group in the K through 12 pipeline? And I think you did mention, you concurred that actually this will absolutely help a lot. And that actually leads me to, talking a little bit about you, Dr. Jackson. You are a retired Navy captain. Your illustrious career in the Navy spanned over 25 years. How did you start your career in the military and in the STEM field? I think that really your knowledge, your wisdom, your experience, your sharing could really help another young person who is deciding what to do. And of course, that if you can also, talk about could military service serve as a pipeline to STEM careers, STEAM careers, please.
Well, as I mentioned, at Savannah State, I was a chemistry and math major, and we also had a Naval ROTC program at the school. One of the things that, and they really, the Navy was really interested in individuals in the technical field. And so by being in a technical major, I was given an opportunity to participate in the ROTC program, and that helped fund my college education. I think right now, even with scholarships, they're Naval ROTC, and I think 75 to 80% of the scholarships are with students who indicate they are going to be in a tier 1, 2, or 3, STEM career, STEM So, and when you look at my first job in the Navy was damage control officer. I had to use that's where you use my mathematics, because you're responsible for the stability of the ship. And so you needed to understand physics, you needed to understand math principles, and to be able to understand if you took damage here, what did you have to do to counterbalance it. I was also a gunnery officer, and that uses geometry. Just to drive the ships, it's all about geometry.
Right.
Angles, and is looking at angles and distances. And so your mathematical principles come into play. After my first tour in the Navy, first assignment rather, when I went back to ships, I was what was called a chief engineering officer. As a chief engineer, I was responsible for producing the electrical power, producing the propulsion, responsible for the auxiliary systems like steam, heating, all of the potable steam. You had to take someone. You couldn't take a shower because you didn't know how water. Chief engineer. If we couldn't go someplace fast enough, so we have our own, and on the ship, you're like a living city. You produce. We have 4 what we call ship service generators that normally 2 provide all the electricity you want for the systems, etc. But it was my STEM background that allowed me to be successful as a naval officer. And I went from that initial tour to being another tour on a more complex ship as a chief engineer. And then I went from that to being, I went to be at what we call a admiral staff, where I was training other engineers.
Wow.
And that exposure in training me to other engineers meant that people knew me around the waterfront. And when you look like us, that can be good and bad. If you're good, it's good. If you're bad, it's not. And
Wow.
so I was blessed to be able to be, fairly competent in my task. And that's what led me to being, there's a selection of being selected to be executive officer and also commanding officer. And my performance it allowed me to be selected to be executive officer of the USS TICONDEROGA, which that was the first ship of its class to have what we call the Aegis weapon system. That's the system that today is what we do ballistic missile defense, the phase array radar. And I learned that system. And so by learning that system, that put me in position when I was selected to be commanding officer of the destroyer. It was a brand new destroyer being built. And I had, but I was, my preparation and understanding the Aegis system put me in a position where I could be successful. I actually had the opportunity to sign, except for the Navy, a $1.3 billion vessel. I got signed, yes, I'm accepting this on behalf of the Navy.
Wow.
And when you mentioned earlier in my bio, the key to the city of Savannah, we took the ship to Savannah, Georgia for commission. So when we put the ship in commission, we took it back to Savannah, Georgia. And so Savannah State University got to be highlight one of their graduates taking over one of the most powerful warships in the world, right? And so my background in STEM really put me in a position where I could be successful in the Navy. And that still holds true today because I still work with other naval officers. That's where the National Naval Officers Association, we exist to help those who are in the Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard be successful in their careers.
That is remarkable. A lot of times, I'm not so sure our young people know the importance of just having that experience or having, pursuing career in STEM, what benefit it really can bring to their life. It is life-changing. I mean, to see you, Dr. Jackson, being the chief engineer in one of the most powerful warships, I mean, in the world, and your position just because of your experience, your background in the STEM field. But without you having that knowledge, majoring in chemistry, pursuing that dream, right? Combining it with engineering, you definitely will not be in that position. So I would like for the young people listening to this program to see the possibility. This is a great possibility. This is, majoring in, pursuing college degrees in the STEM field. It can be life-changing. Dr. Jackson, definitely, it's a reflection of that. Dr. Jackson, as a person of color, I understand the importance and commitment of success to diverse population. After all, we live in a diverse society where collaboration with members of diverse population promotes achievement for all members of our community. In the Navy, how diverse is the Navy? And I mean, you mentioned that I mean, when you were the chief engineer in, I mean, how diverse was it? I mean, what?
Uh, it's it's a challenge. It's still a challenge today. I think, like I mentioned, the National Naval Officers Association was created really as a result of the President Lyndon Johnson. We went to the Naval Academy. They were having a field day, and he asked where are the black officers, where are the black officer candidates. And at that time, out of the 80,000 some officers, there were less than, I would say less than, we were less than 2% of that officer population. We still a challenge today. I think in certain communities, in the surface warfare community, the ship drivers, we're about 7%. In the aviation community, which is somewhat, if you look at technological, rigor, you're probably, like I say, about 70–85% of the jobs are technical in nature, but the rigor required in technical kind of is not even across the board. Mm-hmm. In this community, it's probably about 3%, only 3%. Mm-hmm. And then in the what we call the nuclear field, in the nuclear world, which is submarines, and we only have nuclear powered aircraft carriers, we're also very, very challenged on that. The Navy is focused on that, and that's why they've looked at program how they grow the diverse population at the Naval Academy and Naval ROTC programs. And we still are encouraging and have to get the word out, because one of the things is that people in our community are not aware of the opportunities. And when I recommend, say, the Naval ROTC of the Naval Academy or West Point or Air Force Academy is probably a start, not because that's gonna look for everybody to be a career, because only about 14% of the population in the military gets to retirement age. Most prior to that. It is a way to start and get your feet on the ground and experience. And so, and this is recognized that we have to be open. If you don't see yourself, one thing that allowed me to kind of be successful in the Navy is that I was getting out after my first 4 or 5 years, and I went to my first what we call the National Naval Officers Conference, and I saw senior Black officers, and when I saw them, I said, well, okay, if they can do it, I could do it. And so I think part of that is not only being prepared, but then the exposure of the opportunity. How do we get the word out about this? And that's what led me to, I think you talked about when we did the STEM organization, and in a way, that was with the Office of Naval Research. They needed to get more people of color exposed to labs. And this was all civilian. They weren't talking about people coming into the military. They wanted people to work at their laboratory, they've got several labs around the nation. And they wanted young people of color who were interested. And what we were able to do by reaching out across, looking at, it's amazing how many people are in career fields. Let's say they're a junior and they may need a little bit of money, to help them get to matriculate through school. Well, by looking at that need, we were able to kind of come up with a program where we could identify a quality student that would be a good fit in a lab, a STEM lab, and offer them scholarships to say, hey, if you're willing to at least apply for the STEM lab, we've got some, we can help support you. And that's how we looked at identifying, these 95 minority students who would not have had an opportunity to participate and be exposed to those laboratories. And exposure, like I say, the importance of exposure. When I was a student, I was thinking a sophomore at Savannah State. We went on a tour of Skidaway Institute of Oceanography, and this is it really is a Georgia. It's a Georgia Tech lab. But it was in Savannah, Georgia, and in that tour, I asked, "Hey, can I get a job there in the summer?" So they said, and they were surprised I asked. They said yes. So in the summer, I got to work in this neat lab using spectrometric analysis. We were, determining the mercury content in the riverbed. But I went to work in short pants and out on the river. It was fun, and
Right.
I was getting paid to do something fun because it was, I knew how to work a spectrometric, and so that kind of taught me the importance of one, exposure, and being prepared. So when the opportunity presents itself, you're ready to perform. I call it having your bag packed. So when that train of opportunity pulls up, you're ready to get on it.
I love that. You also coordinate local government, states, and community stakeholders that empower comprehensive community-wide efforts to increase the achievement and reduce high school dropout rates in Alexandria. I take it Alexandria, Virginia.
Yes.
So you want to talk about that? I mean, how?
That's the Concerned Citizen Network of Alexandria, and they work as an in-school program that provides and is focused on what we call kids at risk to make them, productive, and it helps them in understanding the importance of their education, and it teaches them financial literacy. It supports them in their reading and math comprehension, and also works on helping improve their social skills, because so that they are able to understand when they go out to a semi-formal or formal dinner how to conduct themselves, so that they feel a part, and they can and we teach these young people is working, and that's again partnering with the school system to kind of supplement what they may or may not be getting at home, because in some of these and a lot of those cases, the home environment where the mom and dad are working and they're trying to survive for the family, they may not be there to kind of help provide that support at home. Like you say, the schools have them from about 7:30 to 3. What happens from 3 to 10? And so the CCNA works primarily is out of Francis Hammond, which is one of the largest middle schools in Alexandria. Works on working with that program, and we are linked closely with now the Alexandria. Used to be the high school in Alexandria, to kind of help those students provide a support mechanism to encourage them to be good students, to kind of explain to them the importance of getting involved in those technical, the math, geometry, trig, calculus early, so that they are prepared to be successful when they matriculate to college.
So that is really, really impressive, Dr. Jackson. Thank you so much for mentoring our community, the young people in our community, because you're absolutely correct. And I'm so glad that you are also mentoring them in terms of financial literacy, because that's that's a big deal. Watching how you spend your money, it's extremely important. And that it's something that I think, we need to talk about more often within our community, because that's so critical. Every young person, like as a teacher, I talk about this. I ask them, I said, I take a survey to try to see how many, the numbers of students that come across or come by $300 a month. And there's quite a lot. Then it's the next question is, what do you spend your $300 on? Right? So, but then, that leads me to have this conversation. Do you know now you can invest literally, of course, with the permission of your parents, right? There are apps on your cell phone, right? That you can literally be part of, the innovation, in the United States of America. So I'm glad that you're having that conversation with the students in our community. One mentoring program that I know that is really big that you're a member of is the BEAR. So BEAR basically stands for the Black Engineers of the Year Award, I believe. It is founded in 1986. And I know that they're going to be having their 34th annual Black Engineer of the Year that is going to be held here in the National Harbor in February of the coming year. So do you care to talk about this organization or conference? What is BEAR STEM Awards, and why is it important to our community?
Well, BEAR, Black Engineer of the Year, as you mentioned, was founded in 1986 by Dr. Tyrone Tableman. And one of the benefits of BEAR is that it brings together people from across the spectrum, especially people of color, to recognize those people who have excelled in their field of expertise. It has a strong, they sponsor a career day. So all of the major technical companies are there for college students. And there's a BEAR, BEAR registration so that it's career fields. They also, one of the programs that I'm involved in is a mentoring program where we actually bring in about 400 to 500 students that's on February the 10th from 4 to 6. And they are actually exposed to senior leaders from across the federal government to mentor them and to get exposure and to talk about the importance of a STEM career, not just serving in the military, but just in general. If there's interest in that, there's no cost, but they can, I think I can make sure I get you my contact information, but they are certainly welcome to participate. The registration will be open here in the next, it should be open soon. And we're looking at students from across the DMV, DC, Maryland, and Virginia participate in this event. There you can see that was a picture of the current Secretary of Defense.
Yes.
When he served as a mentor in this program. And by working and talking to these students, we all, I would say those who have we've kind of gone before you, understand the importance of a STEM education. And so companies like Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Huntington, Eagles, they provide support. And at this, and in addition to mentoring these kids, we also look at recognizing some of the top in their fields. And I can't tell you who the Black engineer, because that's currently being, that's under debate right now, and that'll be announced on that night. But here are some of the some of the examples of the people who participate in that program. Major General Craig Crenshaw, who's actually the Secretary of Veteran Affairs for the state of Virginia, is the chair of this group of us who kind of support the organization for this mentoring session. And if you talk to your high schools counselor, if they don't have the information about it, please feel free to reach out to me. Doc, you can share my email address.
Absolutely.
Anyone that are interested in participating. But students who have gone on, I know one young man, for example, who went to this program. He got exposed to Northrop Grumman, also the chair of the engineering department in North Carolina A&T. Because of that exposure, he got a full ride. He's got a full ride to North Carolina A&T. He's now a junior, and he's done an internship with Northrop Grumman, an internship with Deloitte, and he's a recipient of an Apple scholarship. So the Bayer Conference, and here you see Vice Admiral Mel Williams, who's one of the senior officers in the U.S. Navy, and he was a nuclear engineer. He's right from Washington, D.C., and because of his exposure, he was able to see the importance of this, and he's also supported this program. So this program is called the Bayer Mentoring Program. You see my contact information that you feel welcome to send me an email if you're interested in attending. And if you're at certain schools, I can make sure you can know who's the point of contact in your school. And if you don't have that at your school, we can certainly get you an invite so someone can bring you and you can participate in, I think, this very worthwhile event that will get you exposure to senior officers and senior executives across the federal government. And they can be excellent, maybe when most of you are going to be going to college and you need recommendation letters. Here's where you meet the people that can help write recommendation letters that have weight. When you have a recommendation from a Mel Williams or one of the 3 or 4 star admiral, believe me, it has a lot of merit when it comes to those individuals who are making decisions. Who do they bring in and allow to get scholarships and accepted in the schools? So, Doc, I thank you for bringing that up, because I'm more than happy to help those. This is the one way we can reach into the community and give back, by exposing them and allowing them to participate in this worthwhile mentoring.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jackson, for what you do for our community, and then for what the Bayer Conference is actually doing for our community too. For all the hard work that you've been put in to build our community up, this is what's all about. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, Dr. Jackson, for coming onto In Touch, Think STEAM Careers podcast, for sharing your life experience. And then, it is important for the young people in our community to see the champions, the giant within our community, doing phenomenal work and contributing, to the health of our community, for the security of our country, like you have done. Any final words? I know I've taken a lot of your time, and I want to appreciate you for really giving me that time. Thank you, sir. Any final words that you want to share before I close?
I just emphasize again the importance of education, and one thing I tell my students: what you learn, what you put in your head, no one can ever take away from you. So invest in yourself by learning as much and try and be an open book where you try and absorb as much knowledge as you can to prepare you for when those opportunities present themselves.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jackson. I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for watching this program, this podcast. This podcast explore the evolving world of science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics in underrepresented community, including Blacks, Indigenous, and people of color. As Dr. Jackson has articulated eloquently, STEAM is vital to our community because our community's health, economy, and future depends on our solid foundation and participation in innovation taking place in the STEM field. As the field of STEAM continues to evolve, this podcast will attempt to connect with men and women who are champions of and in STEAM education and careers to gain insight into how the Bipoc community can be part of the STEAM innovation, and also inspire and support the creation of innovative solutions for sustainable development that will contribute to positive change in the Bipoc community for improving the quality of life. I want to thank you again, Dr. Jackson, for this opportunity, to hear about, your accomplishment, your contribution, and all that you have done. And thank you so much for your service to our country, to our community, to our nation. From Dr. Olufade and Dr. Jackson, have a great day, everyone. Bye.